The United States military campaign against Iran has crossed a critical legal threshold, sparking a fierce constitutional debate between the White House, the Pentagon, and members of Congress from both parties. The War Powers Resolution, a landmark post-Vietnam law enacted in 1973, places a strict 60-day limit on any president's ability to commit U.S. armed forces to hostilities without explicit authorization from Congress. That deadline expired on May 1st, yet the Trump administration shows no sign of seeking a congressional vote or withdrawing forces from the conflict. Instead, Defense Secretary Pete Hogsten offered a controversial legal argument before the Senate, claiming that the ongoing ceasefire effectively pauses the 60-day countdown. "We are in a ceasefire right now, which our understanding means the 60-day clock pauses or stops," Hogsten told lawmakers on Thursday. That interpretation, however, is being rejected by members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. Senator Susan Collins, a Republican from Maine, broke ranks with her party to vote alongside Democrats in a bid to force the removal of U.S. armed forces from active hostilities, a vote that ultimately failed. Collins made her position unmistakably clear. The 60-day deadline, she said, is not a suggestion, it is a requirement. Her rebuke of the administration's ceasefire argument signals growing unease within the Republican Party over the legal standing of the ongoing military operation. Senator John Curtis of Utah went even further, drawing a firm line on future war funding. "I will not support continued funding for the use of force without Congress weighing in," Curtis said in a formal statement. Curtis has reportedly been consulting with fellow Republicans, including Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, about drafting a formal war authorization measure that would set clear military objectives and provide a defined legal framework for the campaign. The War Powers Resolution outlines a precise sequence of obligations for the executive branch during any undeclared military conflict. Within 48 hours of deploying forces into hostilities, the president must formally notify Congress, detailing the scope, legal justification, and anticipated duration of the operation. President Trump fulfilled that requirement on March 2nd, submitting the required notification. Though, like presidents before him, Trump grounded his authority in the president's constitutional power to conduct U.S. foreign relations, rather than in any specific congressional authorization. Once that notification is submitted, Congress has 60 days to formally authorize the use of military force. If no authorization is granted, the president is legally required to terminate the military action. The law does allow for one additional extension. The president may invoke a 30-day grace period if he certifies that continued military engagement is necessary to safely withdraw U.S. forces from the conflict zone. Trump, however, has publicly dismissed any pressure to rush toward a settlement, insisting he will not be forced into a bad deal. Adding to the legal uncertainty, congressional lawyers on both sides disagree about the precise date the 60-day clock began. Some legal experts argue the deadline started from the date actual hostilities commenced, placing the cutoff at April 29th. Others point to the statutory language, which ties the countdown to the date Congress received the White House's official notification, pushing the deadline to May 1st. The ceasefire itself has introduced yet another layer of complexity. Even some Democratic lawmakers have acknowledged that an active ceasefire complicates efforts to enforce the War Powers Resolution. Republican Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania articulated the dilemma bluntly. "You can't punish ceasefires. We want them to sit down and talk to each other," Fitzpatrick told CNN. He added, however, that he stands ready to force a formal war powers vote the moment the ceasefire breaks down. Despite mounting pressure from lawmakers, the White House and the Pentagon have yet to disclose how much the Iran operation will ultimately cost American taxpayers, and they have not formally requested emergency war funding from Congress, a step that would typically signal a longer-term military commitment. The standoff raises fundamental questions about the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches in matters of war. Questions that remain unresolved as the conflict continues and the legal clock keeps running.